Good evening, everyone. It's your guy JD. Hope all is well, love and light. So, guys, today we are going to be talking about what happens if, in case you divorce in the Dominican Republic. There's a lot of us foreigners that are making investments out in DR, and of course, we always want to protect our investments. So, with that being said, I figured I would make a video to give you 7 steps that could possibly happen if, in case you may decide to divorce in DR, your wife wants to divorce you, or your husband wants to divorce you, vice versa. All right. So before I get started, I'm gonna need you guys to hit the like, the share, and the subscribe button. So without further ado, let's go. So now, if a foreigner divorces in the Dominican Republic, there are spousal rights. Okay, both during and after the divorce, depending on several factors, including marriage type, property ownership, whether the marriage was registered under Dominican law. So I'm going to give you, what the outline of spousal rights for foreigners divorcing in DR as of 2025. Okay, so now we're going to start with number one: legal recognition of the marriage. If the marriage was performed or registered in the Dominican Republic, it is governed by Dominican law. If the marriage was performed around, but if it was performed abroad, but recognized by the Dominican Civil Registry, which is abbreviated as JCE, Dominican courts can still handle the divorce and related issues. Now we're going to go into number two. There are two types of divorces: mutual consent, okay, which is translated as divorcio por mutuo consentimiento. Okay, I hope I said it right. As I said, my Spanish is a little choppy choppy. So now, the first thing is the fastest and easiest form if both parties agree, okay, to consent to a divorce. That's the fastest and easiest. If both parties agree to consent, all right? Secondly, usually it's finalized, I would say, in about 30 to 90 days, okay? And third, it requires a separation agreement about property, children, and support, all right? Cause based divorce: one spouse sues the other for specific legal grounds, infidelity, abuse, abandonment, etc. More complex and takes longer. That's for cause based divorce. And then the judge decides pretty much on the property division and support. So now we're going to go into number three: property rights. And here are the community property rules, okay, as follows. The DR typically applies community property system to legal marriages. Assets acquired during the marriage are generally considered joint property regardless of who paid for them. Keep that in mind. But premarital property and inheritance usually remain separate unless commingled. Okay, if the foreign spouse is not listed on the property, title, or legal proof as needed to claim ownership. But take notes: foreigners can own property in the DR, but it's crucial the property is registered correctly, preferably in both names if jointly acquired. Okay, now we're going to go into number four: custody and child support. Now, Dominican courts favor the best interest of the child. Foreign spouses can request custody or visitation even if returning to their home country. Child support is legally required and based on income, needs, and lifestyle. Pretty much almost the same here as as the United States. So now we're going to go into number five: spousal support, alimony. We'll get into that. Now, the spousal support is not automatic, but may be granted if one spouse is financially dependent, there was a significant difference in earning power, and more likely in cause-based divorces, especially if one spouse was wrongfully abandoned or harmed. Okay, now we're going to get into number 6, immigration status and residency. Now, if you are a residency, if your residency, I'm sorry, is based on marriage, divorce can affect your legal status. Yes. This is why I always say, if you are looking to obtain residency before you get married, I suggest you do it that way because there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that you are going to remain married, for a long period of time. And we have to be realistic with ourselves, especially when we are dating much younger. I'm just saying. Now, in some cases, you may lose residency unless you've had it for several years already. Just what I said. It's better for you to get your own residency before you get married, if in case the marriage doesn't work out. The last thing you want to do is lose your residency due to, divorcing. Okay. So, with that being said, it's better get your own residency before you get married. Now, number 7, divorce recognition abroad. A divorce issued in the Dominican Republic is valid internationally, but you may need to get the judgment apostilled. Okay, now I'm going to break down what apostille is. An apostille is a certification that verifies the signature and seal of a public official on a document, making it valid for use and DR, pretty much. Okay, so that's pretty much what an apostille is. Okay, so as I said, you got to get that judgment apostille and translated. Now you have to register the divorce in your home country, especially if you plan to remarry or update legal records. Now we're going to get into number 8, foreign spouse rights in court. Now, foreigners have equal rights in Dominican courts, but it's highly recommended to hire a bilingual Dominican lawyer. That way, you protect yourself. You want to be able to communicate effectively with your lawyer in terms of what you want the divorce, what you want in the divorce. Whether you want half the property or all of the property, all of these things that you want to communicate with that lawyer. So it's always best that you have a lawyer who is bilingual, who can understand you. It's very important. There's no point in hiring somebody that don't understand you and you don't understand them. I'm just saying. Now, courts and legal documents are in Spanish, so as I said, make sure that they're bilingual because everything is pretty much in Spanish. And power of attorney, it can be used if you can't stay in the country for the process. All right. So I'm going to give you my recommendations, and pretty much is document everything: receipts, property records, agreements. You want to get legal representation from a Dominican family lawyer familiar with international cases, very important. And last but not least, you want to consider prenups or separation agreements if the divorce is by mutual consent. Now, if a person, whether a female, you marrying a female, you marrying a man, if they really love you for who you are, they're in it for the long run. They should be in it for the long run. So if it comes down to a prenuptial agreement, um, they should be willing to sign it because if you know your intentions, especially when you know your intentions, and it's all about protecting your investments. Okay, we've heard stories. Things happen all the time, so you want to make sure that you want to protect your assets if in case something may happen. So I always say, make sure, make sure, make sure you get that prenuptial agreement. Okay, it's just a protection for yourself, and before you get married and you got assets, you can always put all your business, all your assets in an S&L. Pretty much, it's a LLC. It's what we call an LLC here in the United States, just to protect your investments. So, with that being said, guys, these are all the steps that can happen if you possibly get a divorce in the Dominican Republic. I hope this information was informative. If it was, please be sure to hit the like, the share and subscribe button. And until next time, guys, I'll be talking to y'all soon. Y'all take care.